Welcome into Sports Talk at the Stadium from Bank of America Stadium in Charlotte, where South Carolina falls to North Carolina 31-17 in the season opener for both teams. Certainly a disappointing night for the Gamecocks. So much effort, so much expectation going into this ball game, but some of the Gamecocks' worst fears came through tonight when talking about the performance of the offensive line, protecting quarterback Shane Rattler, and defending the pass. All of that worked against the Gamecocks tonight. I know Gamecock Nation is up in arms with this loss tonight because so much was expected. The hype was extremely high for the Gamecocks going in to this ball game, and they just did not deliver across the board. Though, to their credit, they did stay in this ball game into the fourth quarter. They did not give up. They gave a really good fight to what appears to be a much improved North Carolina team, especially on the defensive side. You knew they were going to be good on the offensive side. Looks like their defense is much improved, but the Gamecocks could not take advantage of some late opportunities, and thus they come up a couple of touchdowns short. And speaking of short, they were really playing shorthanded tonight. The injuries were very long, too many for Shane Beamer to recount after the game. Nicky Manwari goes out on the first play of the game as he's done for the game with a hamstring injury. Kason Henry, a starting offensive tackle, goes out very early. He doesn't come back. Mo Kaba goes out again. He doesn't come back. Juice Wells tried to play, but he was not able to go with his injury, so he was not involved in the game at all. And there were others. It's a long list for the Gamecocks. Unfortunate for them that they suffered some injuries and couldn't get some guys who've been banged up into play tonight. Just a quick recap. North Carolina scored first on their opening drive to go up 7-0. USC responded, a couple of big passes from Rattler to Leggett. Joyner runs in from the 4 at 7-7. North Carolina with a field goal to go up 10-7. Gamecocks responded again very quickly. 5 plays, 72 yards in a minute and 42. They looked really, really good on this drive, including Rattler to Leggett for 29 and then to Brown for 20. And 22 yards to McDowell, spreading the ball around, playing fast. McDowell scored from the run up from the 1, and the Gamecocks were up 14-10. But UNC came right back to score, and they led 17-14 at the half. And that score was important because North Carolina was getting the ball to start the second half. Even though the Gamecocks recovered an onside kick, executed perfectly to start the second half, and that seemed to maybe turn the momentum out of the locker room back their way, but they couldn't do anything with that extra possession. They were stopped on downs, and then North Carolina went down and scored on a big pass to Blackwell down to the 1. They run it in to make it 24-14. Then they continue to dominate the third quarter. May to his big tight end, Copenhaver. He caught the ball over Keenan Nelson in the end zone for a touchdown. It's 31-14. Third quarter yardage, 148 for North Carolina, 20 for the Gamecocks. So the Gamecocks are down. They could have pretty much mailed it in, but they did not. They forced a couple of interceptions on back-to-back possessions by North Carolina. Fortune got one. The Gamecocks drove it down to the 8th with a long pass to Leggett, but a sack on third down set the drive back, and Jeter had to come on to kick a 26-yard field goal. Good call by Shane Beamer to go for the field goal there because that made it just a 2-possession game. And the Gamecocks got the ball right back. Banks with the interception at the North Carolina 38. They reached the 13, but a grounding on third down and a completed pass was well short on fourth down. So the Gamecocks turn it over on downs. Then a little bit later on, still down by the 2 touchdowns. They get the ball back. They reach the North Carolina 22, but again, they lose the ball on downs, and that was pretty much the end of the ball game for the Gamecocks. Some numbers: 437 yards for the Tar Heels to 364. North Carolina threw for 269. Rattler threw for 353. North Carolina rushed for 168. South Carolina finished with 11 rushing yards. They had 65 without sacks. So, a lot of that yardage they lost, even though 65 yards is nothing to feel good about. They lost yardage off of sacks. North Carolina, hard to get off the field, 8 of 13 on third down to the Gamecocks, 4 of 14. Here are two of the most crucial stats of the game. North Carolina, which had 17 sacks for all of last season, had 9 in this game. And they had 51 tackles for loss all of last season. They had 16 tonight. The Gamecocks had 0 sacks and 1 tackle for loss. Individually, Rattler, 30 of 39 for 353, no picks. Leggett had 9 catches, 178 yards. May, 24 of 32 for 269, 2 touchdowns, 2 picks. Favorite receiver was Pacer, 7 catches for 60 yards and a score. Brooks rushed for 103. USC did have 12 explosive plays, 9 in the passing game, so all on Rattler, 3 in the rushing game, and those 2 were by Rattler as he scrambled around. He was running for his life all night long as Gamecock offensive line had their struggles, to say it mildly, against this North Carolina defense, which appears to be much improved over last year. So disappointing night for South Carolina. They lose their opener for the first time under Shane Beamer, and they lose to North Carolina, a rare loss to North Carolina in recent years. But the Tar Heels played pretty well and deserved this win tonight in front of over 68,000 fans here in Charlotte. So it'll be up to Shane Beamer and his staff to coach better, as he put it. His players do have to execute better. The offensive line has got to block better. They've got to find a running game. You know, we talked on Sports Talk about the idea of Rattler throwing for 350, and if they could run for about 150, how dynamic they would be. Well, they got to 350 through the air, but nothing on the ground. So that has certainly got to be improved, and I'm not sure that they have the makeup to be able to create much of a running game. This may be an offense that's going to rely just totally on the passing game moving forward, and they've also got to get healthy. They play a very good Furman team Saturday night in Columbia. They cannot afford to take their eye off the ball and sleep on the Paladins, or they'll have a long night on their hands, and then it's on to Georgia. Enough said about that. Gamecocks lose it here in Charlotte, 31-17. That'll do it for our report tonight, brought to you by the South Carolina Beef Council. Have a great night, and we'll talk to you Monday night right here on Sports Talk.